Well, good morning and welcome to Rethinking Freedom. I am your host, Aya Fubara Eneli, and today we are confronting an issue shaping the very foundation of democracy in Texas and across America. Because a lot of times, how Texas goes, America goes. And we are talking about redistricting and the fight for fair representation. In 1966, Barbara Jordan, the first African American woman elected to the Texas Senate, and later the first Black woman from the South elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, declared, "My presence here is one additional bit of evidence that the American dream need not forever be deferred." But there are some people who are doing everything they can to erase the presence of certain people, namely Black and brown people in particular. Jordan's words were a call to action then, and they are a warning to us now, because here in Texas, the dream of representation is under siege. Gerrymandered maps, voter suppression bills, and partisan power grabs threaten to silence communities of color that have driven the state's growth. We are actually numerically the majority in the state. And in this fight, one leader has captured the attention of the nation. State Representative Jolanda Jones energized Democrats across the country last month as she took the fight to stop Donald Trump's racist and unconstitutional plan to steal 5 congressional seats. Her fiery interviews on broadcast and cable television, in national newspapers, podcasts, and we're so glad that she's joining us, streaming shows, all went viral, igniting hope and action among Democrats desperate for an unapologetic fighter. But Representative Jones' story begins long before politics. She rose from a childhood of poverty and tragedy to become a member of the Academic All-American Hall of Fame, a 4-time national track and field champion. Did you hear national? A basketball All-American, and a Rhodes Scholar nominee. So we're talking about the whole package: beauty, brains, brawn, courage, resilience, everything, vision. She went on to build a career as a successful businesswoman, an author, an unapologetic human rights activist, and an 11-time elected official. Representative Jolanda Jones, in every sense, is a trailblazer, and today she joins us on Rethinking Freedom to talk about her journey, the redistricting battles that continue to draw national attention and now are expanding, and what comes next for democracy in Texas. Most importantly, for all of us listening and watching, she'll share how each of us can get involved in the struggle for representation and justice. Representative Jones, welcome to Rethinking Freedom.
Thank you, Aya, for having me. Although I've got to say something, because I need for people to use the proper vocabulary when it comes to redistricting. Mm-hmm. You're a lawyer.
Yes.
So you understand that if you're fighting in a lawsuit, you've got to use the right terminology.
Absolutely.
So we cannot say political gerrymandering. That is lawful. You can do that. So Donald Trump can literally cut out all Democrats and replace them with Republican congressional districts if he wants to, because the courts under Donald Trump have said that that's legal. What is still illegal and unconstitutional is racist gerrymandering or racial gerrymandering. And so it's not just political, it's racist. Because for Donald Trump to get those 5 seats that Governor Abbott signed into law yesterday, they had to go and literally find concentrations of Black and brown people, crack those populations, and pack them into places to dilute the political power. So, for example, in the Dallas area, there are currently 2 Black representatives, Jasmine Crockett, who the whole world knows, and Mark Vesey. Jasmine represents Congressional District 30. Mark Vesey represents 33. In the Houston area, there are 2 seats with Black congressional representatives. Texas 18, which is where Barbara Jordan represented from the time it existed in 1973. And oh, by the way, I'm actually running for that seat, but we'll talk about that later because
Yes.
that's the way you can join the fight. And Congressional District 9, which is represented by Congressman Al Green, who's had that seat for over 20 years. And what people don't understand is that Texas has the largest Black population of any state in the United States. We have 4 representatives. In Texas, most of the Black population is in 2 areas, and concentrations large enough to elect the representative of their choice. That's in the
Yeah.
Houston area, and that's in the Dallas area. And I think that Black folks can understand this. If your family is from a small town, like my family is from like Elkhart and Forney, those towns are racist. So the first thing Black people do is they go to the big city. And the big cities in Texas are Houston and Dallas. And that's
Yes.
where we mostly are. Black people are 12.33% of the population in Texas. 12.33%. And that's why it's not by accident, it's not by coincidence that the 2 Black representatives come from the Dallas area and the 2 Black representatives come from the Houston area, because that's
Yeah.
where our populations are. And what Donald Trump got Greg Abbott to do was to go to the Houston and Dallas areas and literally find where Black people are concentrated and crack our populations and divide us up to dilute our power. So it is racist. It is not political. It is racist. And if you go look at the rest of Texas, where it's mostly white, he has not gerrymandered any of those districts. They're nice and pristine. The same people are voting for the same people. But in Houston and Dallas, people are voting for different people. For example, Jasmine literally lives, or currently Jasmine lives in her congressional district, CD 30. They redrew her district to move her house into congressional district 33, which is where Mark Vesey represents.
Yes.
And then Mark Vesey is from Tarrant County, which is where Fort Worth is. They literally drew much of Tarrant County out of 33. So they took away Mark Vesey's base, and they're pitting Jasmine against Mark Vesey. That is racist. In Houston, Harris County, same deal. In Fort Bend County, same deal. They literally, and now let me look, because I'm a numbers person. CD 18, which is where Congresswoman Jackson Lee lived, and I'm pulling something up on my phone. I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but I believe in having receipts. CD 18, literally, hold on, I'm going to find it, it's only keeping 25% of its original self. I'm going to say that again. CD 18 is literally keeping 25% of its original self, which means that 75% of CD 18 will be voting for somebody that they've never voted for. That is wrong. And that is not what they have done in white areas. Most of the white districts, the Republican districts, have maintained, one of the Republican districts has maintained 100% of itself, which means they didn't change it at all. So that person is going to stay elected by the person that's elected them. But most of white districts have at least 80 or 90% of their original selves, but not in the Black districts. They're barely themselves. In CD9 is only keeping 2.9% of its original self.
Wow. So I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you this question, and to you and I, it might seem like, duh, you should already understand this, but I think there are a lot of voters, potential voters, who are really not keeping up with what these racially gerrymandered redistricting, what it means for us. So I happen to be in an area that was racially gerrymandered after the census. Of course, we know that this redistricting is happening
in 21.
in the,
In
yes,
21,
in
you have in
21.
21.
Yes.
Okay.
So what they
So
did with
those
that
maps,
area,
you understand this? Those maps are in litigation right now because they racist. But go ahead.
yes, yes, and so I'm actually a plaintiff in one of those lawsuits at this time. So what they did with that area is that they could see increasingly, because of the racial diversity, that
Because the military is there and there's a lot of black people.
yes, that there was a
Tell the truth.
potential that
Devil.
soon a Democrat or someone with more progressive ideas would be elected into that position. And so what they did was they
A black
basically
person.
carved out a donut hole. So they took a district and then they went into the heart of it where you have a concentration of black people, and they cut that hole out and then added that to an almost all white district in an
Right. So
effort
that you
to
don't have
dilute
power.
that vote. Yes.
Yeah. That's
So,
what they did
so,
in Harris County. Yeah.
so for our listeners, what does this racially gerrymandered redistricting, what does that mean for them? Why should they care?
Well, you better care, because if you don't elect people who understand your struggles, then they're going to ignore you, right? They're going to ignore you. So, for example, they racistly gerrymandered in North Carolina in 2024. Nobody paid attention to it. So they stole 3 black seats. They stole 3 seats by going in and targeting black people and cracking and packing them. So cracking the populations and packing them into whatever respective district, sort of like the donut hole is packed somewhere else, right? Where it no longer has political power because it's the minority now instead of the majority where it was. And Donald Trump has a 3 Republican majority in Congress. And so that big ugly bill that's screwing everybody, those high tariffs that Congress is okay with, the eggs that used to cost $6, now they cost $13. The backpack that used to cost $15, now it costs $50. And kicked off of their health care with Medicaid and Medicare. Oh, and by the way, they're stealing our Social Security, which is not a handout. Like, we all paid into Social Security from the moment we started working as kids. So for poor people, Social Security is our retirement. So how you gonna go cut off my Social Security after you took my money for me to get my Social Security? And so if you don't think what happened in North Carolina isn't literally affecting you wherever you are, when you see these really bad effects of Donald Trump's presidency, or that they're literally deporting US citizens, they're literally separating families. Like, if you don't think that what's happening with Trump is not affecting you, then I don't know what world you're listening to, you're living in. I don't know. And let me be clear. We cannot afford to have Trump run for a 3rd term. That's illegal. But the man clearly doesn't appreciate the Constitution. He absolutely, and then he's packed the Supreme Court, where they literally have undone well-established law. Black folks can get killed again by the police. Women don't have the right to an abortion. We literally voted yesterday. I voted against it. The Republicans, because they have a big majority over us, literally voted to outlaw the abortion pill, which I'm certain we're going to talk about that, because there's some crazy stuff going on in Texas. So if you don't think what we're doing in Austin is not going to affect you, and not just in Texas, but around the world, you crazy. He's literally alienating our allies on the world scene. This is craziness. And the Supreme Court, I mean, you're a lawyer, you understand stare decisis.
Yes.
But the Supreme Court literally could give a care about stare decisis. And to people who don't know what stare decisis is, that's an established principle that the law is what the law is. And you don't deviate from it. But Trump's Supreme Court is like, nah, we don't like that. That's giving black people too many rights. That's giving immigrants too many rights. So we're going to get rid of it. Okay, so but I'm done.
They're literally making up the law as they go along now. There's right. No precedent anymore. Yes.
No, they've like totally thrown out what the law is. And we worked too long and too hard for black people to come this far, for immigrants to come this far, for us to be set back to 1965 Voting Rights Act to pre-1964 Civil Rights Act. But I'll stop and let you do your show.
No, you are the show, and what you're sharing
Okay.
with our audience is incredibly important. I do want to ask you this quick question. For people who might not necessarily care about the rights of those who don't look like them, but who nonetheless believe in America being a democracy, can you speak to how dangerous it is with this racial gerrymandering happening and no longer having three separate and co-equal branches of government? Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I can. So let me just tell you something like pretty fundamental about me. I generally don't use big words to talk to people because I want the person with the least amount of education to understand what I'm saying.
That's right.
Right. So when we're in school, in elementary school, we learn about the executive branch, which is the president. We learn about the legislative branch, which is Congress. That's the House and the Senate. And then we learn about the judicial branch. So the legislative branch will pass laws and the president will sign them into law or he won't. Right. And the president has powers. But Congress, why is Congress so important in the balance of power between the three branches? Congress literally gets to investigate the president, right? They can impeach the president and they can vote against his shit. I mean, it's that simple. That's how you
Yes.
check the president. Congress actually decides how money gets allocated in the state. They determine, I'm sorry, in the US, they determine
Mhm.
appropriations. So if you have a federal project, let's say you got some Section 8 housing in your some affordable housing in your area and you need it, you have a homelessness problem. And there's something called CDBG funding that you get from the federal government.
Mhm.
Congress will decide where that money is going. The president will sign off on it, but Congress gets to decide that. If you are a small business and you need a small business loan, Congress decides how much money goes like to your area. So it's important that Congress have power. It's very, very, very important. And the fact that Trump is trying to, figuratively speaking, cut off the nuts of Congress means he's cutting off anybody who can challenge him, which means effectively he can do whatever he wants.
And the MAGA Republicans are letting him.
And you want to know what's funny? Everybody's not courageous, right? Which will lead me to the quorum break. Everybody's not courageous. Republicans started off, sorry about that. Republicans started off, moderate Republicans started off trying to challenge Trump. Well, Trump
Mhm.
is a petulant child. He throws temper tantrums like a kid. He whines. I have no clue why a rich white man from a rich family with power and connections has any right to whine, right? He steals everything he has. He hires
Steals.
workers. He's a thief. He's a
Yeah.
convicted felon. He
Yes.
literally hires workers. He preys on immigrants and then he doesn't pay them. He's had a ton of lawsuits where it literally said he stole wages. He stole thefts. I don't know how many bankruptcies he's had. He is a total failure in business, but he is a bully. And
Yes, he is.
what he has effectively done to Republicans is bully them. And the people that stood up to him before, he targeted them, he sued them to death because he's a freaking whiner. And all of a sudden they just relent and they're like, I don't want no problems with him. That's
Mhm.
not me. I wish he would try to do that to me. Just like he can sue people, I would sue right back. So my point is, it is dangerous when someone has unchecked powers because
Yes.
God forbid if he targets you. Then he's gone and he stacked the Supreme Court, who literally sign off on everything he does. So if you black, you remember how it was before George Floyd, where the police could literally do a throwdown gun, like shoot us, kill us, do a throwdown gun, and then say we attacked them,
Mhm.
right? And by the grace of God, there were smartphones, and we saw how they literally murdered George Floyd, and they were lying about what happened, but a video showed it. And we had a lot of criminal justice reform happen where you no longer just believe the police, because in white neighborhoods, literally the police protect and serve. A young kid will do some dumb stuff. They might steal. They might be doing donuts. They might be speeding, and the police will talk to them and take them to their parents. Let some little black kids do the same thing. they putting them under the jail.
You get a
Right?
record.
So
Yes.
we got some modicum of criminal justice reform after George Floyd. The Supreme Court is unwinding our civil rights.
Yes, they are.
They're unwinding our civil rights. And trust me. So I think for Black people, our problem is we are too far removed from Jim Crow. We don't understand what it means to have been lynched.
We don't remember.
We don't know. Like older people remember, but we weren't there. We actually have benefited from the civil rights movement that started a long time ago that got us voting rights. I mean, I was talking to Santita Jackson a couple of weeks ago when I was in Chicago during the corn break. Santita is Jesse Jackson's daughter.
Yes.
And to listen to, and I've had this conversation with my son. There are people that don't like me. They wish I were dead. They would try to kill me. I've told my son, if somebody might try to kill me. Like my friends are like, you need to have security all the time. Because Trump has literally emboldened people to think they can come kill you. Right?
Yes.
I don't like what you think. Like, I don't like the way you attacking Trump, so I can come kill you. A bunch of thugs and gangsters literally tried to overtake the government on January 6th. And Trump pardoned them. Listen, Black people have done that. They'd have been shot dead. Trust me. Trust me. So Trump is dangerous. And I'm telling you, we can be lynched. They are taking us back. We fought so hard for the right to freaking vote. And now we don't realize how it was because it was so long ago. But when I was talking to Santita, she said, and when I think about what she said, it brings tears to my eyes. She said that she was terrified when her father turned 39 because Black leaders didn't live past 39.
Past 39.
She's turned 18. She turned 18 when her daddy was 39, and she couldn't even understand. She couldn't even appreciate when she was 18 years old because she just knew her dad was going to die. Can you imagine anticipating your daddy going to die? But her daddy said, I can't stop doing this. I need to leave this country better for you. And so if I get killed, because, you know, he was with King when King got killed.
Yes, he was.
If I get killed, y'all can mourn, but y'all better pick up the baton and y'all better run with this.
Yeah.
So that's how Black people were back in the day. Black people now are comfortable. Got your little house, got your little car.
Maybe too comfortable.
Too comfortable.
Just to make a historical note for those who are saying, what's the significance of 39? So we know Malcolm X was killed right around his 39th birthday. So was Martin Luther King. We can also talk about Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso. We can talk about Walter Rodney. There have been a number of Patrice Lumumba, a number of Black men who've spoken. Medgar Evers. They don't get to see 40.
They don't.
Yes.
And let me be clear. There used to be a time to stop the civil rights movement, you had to kill somebody. Now you got to do is buy them. Give them a nice house, give them a nice car. And back during segregation, we knew that we couldn't rely on white people. So we had very strong communities. We had more professionals. More percentages of our people were professionals. Less people were in prison. More people were college educated. We helped each other, right? Then segregation, when it got broken down and there was integration, a bunch of Black folks was like, we made it. And they thought that white people were going to accept us, and they haven't. We found out with President Obama, that man was an Ivy Leaguer, brilliant. We had a nice family. Don't cheat on his wife. Ain't no hope. Like this man that they call the president, and they let him know he was Black.
Who sexually assaults women and doesn't pay his bills. Yes.
And so my point is that somebody needs to check that crook in the White House. And the people that used to check executive overreach was the Supreme Court. And the people that are supposed to check executive overreach is Congress. Mm-hmm. So you better pay attention. You better pay attention because it can't get worse.
Let's bring it back to Texas and this redistricting.
Racist redistricting.
Right, the redistricting. And I know that you were part of a group that left to break quorum. Can you tell us a little bit more about that fight, why you all chose that route? And I know you only just made it back to Texas. whereas some of your colleagues came back a lot earlier. Tell us a little bit about what we should know about this ongoing fight, even though the governor
We came back and gave
signed it into law.
We the Democrats, not me, but we the Democrats came back. So let me explain what quorum is. A lot of people don't know what that is. There are 150 state representatives. 88 are Republican, 62 are Democrats. For the most part, it takes a majority of the 150 to pass anything. So a majority of 150 is 76. So technically, the Republicans don't even need Democrats to pass anything because there's 88 of them. Although sometimes they infight, right? The Democrats, we've got to go find 14 Republicans to vote with us to pass anything because there's only 62 of us, right? But before any of those numbers matter, we have to be able to conduct business. And the way that we conduct business is that we need 100 of the 150, so a supermajority, to be present in the House chamber. So, which means Republicans can't just conduct business without some Democrats. So we need, in order for there not to be 100, we need to take 51 Democrats and leave so that they can't get to 100. So if they can't conduct business, it doesn't matter that there's 88 of them and 62 of us because it's a non-starter. So we started off being gangster, being bold, right? Being courageous. 51 of us got ghosts. We left so that they could not conduct business. So the entire first special session, all they did was whine, oh, they're not here. Oh, they're not working. Now y'all mad because we smarter than y'all. Y'all mad because you can't bully us with your 88 votes. And then a decision was made, not by me, to come back and fight. My position has always been, there is no fighting.
There is no fight. Once they have the quorum, they have the votes.
Right. Once we gave them the quorum, we literally gave them the only power we had to stop anything. So this session, everything that they put on the special session has passed. Those racist maps passed within less than 48 hours after my colleagues came back and gave them a quorum. I stayed gone. I didn't care that the FBI was looking for us. I didn't care that DPS was looking for us. I was like, come find me, right? You have to drag me back to that plantation. I ain't just going back. I'm not about to let you use my body. The history of the Black body in this country is that it built this country and we never got paid for it. And they destroyed us and they separated our families and they raped us and they murdered us. That is the history of Black people. This country became wealthy because of our stolen labor and our stolen lives. Our body was nothing but a commodity to them. Well, let me be clear. Y'all weren't about to use my body for one vote to give y'all a quorum. And that was my position. And that still is my position. And we have had really bad bills passed during this second special session because we gave them a quorum. And I want to say this. The problem with Black folks is we don't know our history. And I firmly believe if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I also believe that if you don't know your greatness, then maybe you won't be great. So the United States would have us believe that we descended from drug dealers and basketball players and sports stars. That's the only way we can be successful. Well, that's a lie. We invented most shit. We did. Even if you're drinking liquor, right? A Black man, Uncle Nearest, is the one that taught the dude how to make. In fact, Jack Daniels stole Uncle Nearest's recipe. Let's be clear. I got to talk about blood plasma and all this other kind of stuff. People made it to the moon because of the hidden figures, most of which were in my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alphas. But and let's not forget that the people who made the mail system efficient were a bunch of deltas mostly. And you saw the movie about that. So Black folks are the reason, right?
Yes.
Black folks, right? We did all you got the remote control because of a Black person, computer because of a Black person. Don't get it twisted. White folks just stole it. The first plane, the first thing that flew, Black people. So, but they don't teach us our history, right? So we need to know our history. And before they stole us from Africa, because we were not slaves, we were enslaved.
Thank you for that
Okay.
distinction.
We were
Thank
not,
you.
so don't ever
Yes.
call us slaves, because I'm a put my foot somewhere. We were stolen and we were enslaved, and they didn't still like work like they had us working. They stole architects and scientists. And so that's why when the black people came here, we could figure out all kind of stuff. We knew astrology and everything because we were brilliant in Africa. We descended from kings and queens and warrior chiefs. We weren't cannibals and like they have us on Tarzan. So when we go back to the history of the civil rights movement, the Montgomery bus boycott started off supposed to be for a day. Y'all know it took over a year, right?
381 days, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
382, right?
Okay.
And let me tell you how important that was. The white folks would take our money on the buses, and we would pay the same amount as the black folks would pay the same amount. They would make us sit at the back of the bus, and if white people came and wanted our seats, we had to get off. Now, mind you, they got our money in their pocket. So black folks is like, you know what? We're not about to do this. We're not about to give y'all money, because the only way to make rich people pay attention is hit them in the pocketbook.
That's right.
Protesting, that might cause them some inconvenience, but when you mess with their money, then they paying attention. True story. Mm-hmm. So they say, you know what? You're not about to get our black money. How about that?
How about that?
And so that's that. They refused to ride the bus. Which, you know what that meant? You know what that meant? If I had to get to work and I was used to catching the bus, I either had to walk to work or I had to find somebody to get me to work, right? So black people, we made sure we got to work.
We rallied together. Yes.
We rallied together. We supported each other. That's what we did.
Yes.
And we held out for 382 days. And guess what? The white folks
that included the kids who had to get to school. Right, everybody. Right. That included old women walking miles to work and back.
We was like, because we got some pride, which is what upsets me about this damn corn break we had. Y'all realize we didn't even corn break for 2 weeks. They came back on Monday. That Monday would have been 2 weeks. Like, what if Dr. King had said, you know what, babe, Coretta and the kids, it's dangerous out here in these streets, and they might kill me. Mm-hmm. So you know what? I can't do that. That's not what he said. He said, whatever I need to do, if I need to lose my life, I'm going to do this because black people deserve to have civil rights. And he got arrested a whole bunch of times, right? They locked him up. They tried to stop him. And the history of this country is to use the police to oppress us. So when we were enslaved, they had the masters and the overseers who are really human traffickers, right? That's what they were, right? And once slavery was abolished, not really, they created the police to come find us and make us work. Basically as indentured servants and sharecroppers, right? That's what they did. When we owned land, they burned it down. You heard of Black Wall Street? They burned down almost every Black Wall Street. We had a bunch of them. The people just got won a lawsuit in California where the black folks had property on the beach and the white folks took it. They eminent domained it, stolen people's land, and set it up for themselves. So whenever black people do well, white people with power steal our shit. That's the history in this country. And if y'all think that under Trump, you think you have something, they can take your stuff. That's the history of us in these United States of America. So somebody better be willing to stand in the gap, because freedom ain't free. It's not. And in Bell County, where y'all got military bases, you understand that. People go out of the country all the time and fight for this country. We here living in our nice comfort. People over there dying. They even dying in training exercises. And they dying in war so that we can be free. Freedom ain't free. But I digress. So the corn break, we left. So they couldn't conduct business. And we won. We killed the first special session and we killed them racist maps. And then we came back. They passed really bad things. They passed those racist maps. The last little piece of abortion rights women had, which was the abortion pill, it just passed out of the House last night. I voted against it, but it's gonna pass in the Senate, and the governor's gonna sign it, which means if if one can't nobody send you, if you order the abortion pill over the internet, they can sue Amazon. They can sue your brother if he lives in another state for sending it to you. They can sue pharmacists. You know how much? $100,000. And it's also creative vigilantes. I call them vagina vigilantes. You know why I call them that? Because they're trying to control our vaginas, and they're creating bounty hunters. So I see I'm your friend, and I can get a 10% reward if I turn you in. So you crying on my shoulders, I don't know, because maybe you were raped and you don't want to have this baby because you were raped, and you crying on your friend's shoulder, and your friend can go get $10,000 because you can get 10% of that $100,000. Your friend's gonna be telling on you for that money.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? That is the Texas we live in. That just
with
passed out of the House.
With all the issues currently impacting us, this is what the focus is on.
Yeah. Guess what else came out yesterday? So have y'all heard of like ivermectin?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Let me tell you
that's what people were using their horse medicine on themselves during COVID.
Right. So let me tell you what ivermectin is. Ivermectin is a horse dewormer. You know, horses get worms. Sometimes your dog get worms, and you want to. You look in their feces, and you see them little worms squirming around, and you give them ivermectin to kill the damn worms.
Yeah.
Well, RFK and them Looney Tunes like him think ivermectin kills COVID, just like Trump thought Clorox killed COVID, right?
Yeah.
And so these folks want ivermectin. And let me be clear, ivermectin is a prescription drug. So to give it to horses, a vet has to prescribe it. Think about that.
To give it to horses.
To get ivermectin, there has to be a prescription. Right? Now, these fools, guess what just passed out of the House yesterday? Humans. Oh, and let me be clear. The FDA has only approved ivermectin for animals, not humans. I'm going to say that one more again. The FDA has only approved ivermectin for animals, not humans. The House of Representatives in Texas yesterday passed out of the House a bill that says that humans don't have to go to no doctor. They can go to the pharmacy. So I've decided, because I've
buy ivermectin over the counter.
So because I've been watching Robert RFK, and I believe his crazy self. I now, when it gets signed into law, and it's priority legislation from the governor, I can go to a pharmacist and say, I've prescribed myself 1,000 ivermectin and without a prescription. Now, mind you, this has not been approved by the FDA to be used on humans. Every major health organization, the WHO, FDA, and everybody says, don't do it. No, there is no scientific proof that this cures COVID. So in a little while, you too will be able to go buy some horseworm medicine to take. In fact, I call it, people who are around my age, there used to be a show called Mr. Ed. It was a talking horse.
Yes.
I say, a horse is a horse, of course. You know, that was the song?
Yes.
Well, of course, ivermectin is for damn animals. But we're going to have some fools drinking or eating, or I don't even know how you use ivermectin. I don't know. Do you heat it like crack? I don't know. Do you rub it on you?
What's so interesting?
And you get it from the feed store. You get it from the feed store.
What's so interesting about this is, in an era where, and we know this didn't start with Trump, we can go back at least to Ronald Reagan with anti-affirmative action and now anti-CRT and anti-DEI. In this administration, the nepotism, the sheer numbers of people who are in very sensitive and important positions who have no business being in those positions because they simply do not have the wherewithal, the intellect, the information, all of that. And so you basically have a group of people choosing not to listen to scientists, but practicing medicine, practicing law, figuring out everything. And it's all politically based on allowing this felon in chief to install himself as dictator. And I think what's really driving this, and why even supposedly better informed white people are going along with this agenda, is because it's reinstituting what America used to be. That inferiority, that class system, the black codes, if you will, that we had, Jim Crow. And
you're being very nice. The truth of the matter is, white folks think they're better. Some white folks think they're better than black folks, right? And if you're not racist, I'm not talking.
Well, they've been taught that.
So, right, but let me be clear. I don't care what they taught.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what they're taught. And you said they're figuring out stuff. They ain't figuring out nothing because they dumb it in boxes of rocks. And all of us have worked in places where the boss hired his son and his son wasn't qualified. It's no different. Right. That's what nepotism means, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know with Trump, right? And the dumber you are, the more qualified you are under his regime.
Yes.
It's just that simple. And so they are literally trying to take us back to where black people have to say, yes, sir, massa. And where black people can't look, and where our kids can get killed like Emmett Till. And if y'all don't understand, if y'all don't know who Emmett Till is, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old kid from Chicago who was taught pride and he was smart, and he went and stayed with his family, if I remember correctly, in Mississippi.
Yes.
And a white woman didn't like that he wasn't looking down and stuff, and she lied and said he looked at her wrong. And they literally dragged that baby. They went and found that baby. He was 14, and they murdered him. They murdered him.
And you know they've now published a book basically saying that was all a lie. He never looked at her the wrong way. All of that was contrived. But they waited until she died to publish that book.
You use such nice words. You said contrived. They lied. You use big words. I use basic words. Contrived. Now, they lied.
Yes, they did.
And we've all been lied on, right?
We all have been lied on.
Okay.
So I know that the people want to hear what's next and what do we do? Because what I'm also hearing from a lot of our people is almost a sense of, like hand wringing. What can we do? Looking for someone to come and save us. So what's next for you? What's next for this racially gerrymandered redistricting that they're doing? What's next? How would you say the people of Texas, and then even nationally, how will you say they need to get involved?
So what I will say is this: ain't nobody gonna come save you. So you better save your damn self. It's the first thing I'm gonna say. But there are some of us who are unapologetic, and we fight. So you say, what's next for me? I'm actually running for Congress. I'm running for one of those targeted seats. And in fact, I believe I'm having a fundraiser in y'all's area. So
yes, you are. I'm going to be hosting it. Yes.
I'm coming to Bell County is what I hear.
Yes. Yes.
But I will tell you, it right now it's like really flattering that people have understood what I've tried to explain very passionately. So for the people that don't know, I'm the person at that press conference that said respectfully, he making up some shit. And it went viral. That was the nicest way I could figure. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I've been told that you can say anything as long as you preface it with respectfully.
Respectfully.
So, yeah. Right. And so, because Abbott is a liar, Trump is a liar. When their lips are moving, they're lying. So, so you need to elect people to office who are going to advocate for you. And the truth is, I grew up poor. I'm the oldest of 5 in a single family household. My dad blew his brains out. I was with my dad when he blew his brains out, and 2 of my uncles blew their brains out. So my grandparents literally lost 3 sons to suicide. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. We were on free and reduced lunch. We got evicted all the time. I could go on and on. And my brother was murdered. He was shot 5 times, twice in the head. My aunt was murdered. She was shot twice in the head. A whole bunch of my cousins were murdered. A bunch of my cousins are in prison right now. Most of my uncles went to prison. I could sing you a sob story. I won't. But what I will say is this: is growing up like I grew up just makes me think like poor people, because I grew up poor. And so I will always fight for poor people, because so many times me and my family were victims of the system. And there needs to be a system that's going to take care of the least, the last, and the lost. And so that's just my frame of mind. And I know that when you grow up poor, people ignore you. And so sometimes you've got to scream really loud for people to even hear you. And you've got to be brave for people to even hear you. And people just think because you're poor, they can just crush you. And you have to be brave, which is why when I was in New York at that press conference and everybody was like, oh, it's a power grab. Trump wants 5 seats and all these things. Now he racist. He knows that black people vote the highest for Democrats. He's trying to get rid of Democrats. So he about to go target the black people, right? And they literally created a map. This map that the governor signed yesterday gives white people 1 congressional representative for like every 440,000 people. Gives Hispanic people 1 congressional representative for every 1.2 million people. And it gives black people a representative for every 2.2 million people. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
So that's exactly what they did. And I might be a little off, but I know it's 440,000 or like 1.2 to like maybe 2.4. Okay. But so why do white people get 1 for every 440,000 and we got to have over 2 million to get a representative? And we have the population to have the same ratio, the same proportion, because they racist. And so that's why at that press conference, when nobody was talking about the racism, I just felt compelled to speak it. And the funny thing about that press conference is they didn't have me speak. I wasn't supposed to speak. Even though the seats that were being taken were, of the 5 seats, 2 were black, and we're the largest black population in the United States. They had the faces of these thefts like not black people, because they never let us speak for ourselves ever. And so when they were not talking about, when they were white-splaining to the white media, I was like, hell no, it's racist. And because if I didn't say it, who was? And I'm going to say this to our white allies. Some people will never listen to us because we're black. They think they're better than us and they think that we're inferior. We need our allies to speak truth to power and tell the truth, because they may receive it from you because they think you're, I don't know, equal to them, and they won't receive it to us. And I need for white people to not be afraid to call a spade and call racism racism. And because if our allies are saying, oh, it's political, let me be clear. Those racist maps will never be struck down. It will never be struck down because the Supremes have already said political gerrymandering is fine. Only racial gerrymandering is illegal. And so we need white people to tell the truth. And it's hard to have you understand what racism is because you just don't see it. Like as black mothers, I've got a son. When my son, after middle school, I literally didn't sleep at night because I worry about whether he's going to come home at night.
I have 3 sons and I track them, and it's like, no, you know what? One time, just a random conversation with my son, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and he said, I just came back from a run. I said, my heart dropped.
Right. So we don't have peace.
And I said, you can't go running after dark. He's like, Mom, it's not a big deal. I'm like, no, it is. Like, if the sun is not out, do not go exercise outside, because I don't need someone with some narrative and now you're a hashtag.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And trust me, when they kill you, they're going to say you was doing something you weren't supposed to do, and people are going to believe it.
Yeah.
And so to our white allies, we need for you to be allies. We don't need for you to jump to the head of the protest line, because it's not about you, but we do need for you to help communicate for us, because some people won't listen to us, and listen to us. Like, you know, so with all these Karens,
don't think you know better than us, and you're going to explain our situation to us, because I've actually run into that with some white allies where I'm like, no, you are out of turn here. Well, no, they know my experience better, and they're going to explain to me how I'm allowed to fight or not fight. Yeah, you're right.
And I want to also say this, that we need white progressives to stand for black people, because black people are the highest voting constituencies of Democrats. Black women vote over 90% for Democrats, and black men are over 70%. White women, you don't know whether they're going to be Republican or Democrat. So I don't want any more people saying that black people need to vote higher, right? Because we've been carrying the party on our shoulders forever. Forever. And it's hard. It's hard having to be a superhero every day. It's hard.
If you can speak to...
you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't tell you. If you go to JolandaJones.com, I'm running for Congress for Congressional District 18. It costs money to win elections. So I'm asking you to please donate to my campaign. And let me spell my name for you, because it is a made-up black name. It is not Yolanda. My mother did not name me that. But what I will tell you is my mother liked the name Yolanda. My father's name was John. She took away the Y and added a J. So spell Yolanda, take away the Y and add a J. So go to JolandaJones.com. I would really appreciate you donating to my campaign. No amount is too small. As we saw with President Obama, where he raised a lot of money from a lot of people who were poor, and they didn't give big donations, but they gave nonetheless. And if you go to JolandaJones.com, you can also join our team. You can volunteer from the comfort of your home. We have people phone banking, so you literally can call people and ask them to vote for me from your house. If you live in Houston, you can block walk and you do those things. So you can actually help. And when you donate, like those signs you see during political season, those signs are not free. People are like, I want a sign. Well, those signs cost $5 a piece. So I want a t-shirt. Those t-shirts, depending on how many you buy, cost at least $5 a t-shirt. So if I give you a sign and a t-shirt, I had to come up with $10, right? Mm-hmm. So these things cost money. If you want to, like, why don't hear your commercials on the radio, Jolanda? Well, and here in Houston, because this is a market that's expensive, you're going to pay $500 for a 30-second spot. So a 30-second commercial going to cost $500. So if you have 4 30-second commercials in a day, that's $2,000 you got to come up with. Right? So Jolanda, I ain't hear you on the radio. I heard somebody else on the radio. Well, they people contributing to their campaigns. Y'all not contributing to mine. So that's why we raise money. Or Jolanda, I want to see your big signs. Well, those big signs cost $50 a pop. The big ones, 50. Mm-hmm. So that's why we ask people to support us. Well, I'm asking you to support me, because at the end of the day, I ain't scared of Donald Trump. I will vote against his stuff. I will investigate the hell out of him, and then I will impeach him. I ain't got nothing better to do. Like nothing. Because that's what Congress is for. And what we don't want in Congress, in DC, is people who are scared. And the one thing you learned about me, if you did not know me before the quorum break, you learned I ain't scared. I ain't never been scared. And I will always fight for the least, the last, and the lost, even when other people don't want me to.
I want to thank you for highlighting just how expensive it is to run for office. And I want to emphasize for our listeners just how important it is to have people in place that can fight for you. You referenced, a number of times you mentioned the fact that political gerrymandering is now legal, but racial gerrymandering isn't. But we know that is just a recent, this is recent. Under
this is Trump stuff. This is Trump stuff.
This is under Justice Roberts, where they are gutting the voting rights bill. And because we have not had the kind of leaders we should have in Congress who would have ensured that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act bill was signed, and all that is why, to some degree, why we are where we are today. So it is incredibly important to support the kind of people who can get into these offices and actually do the work of the people. And that's why I will be supporting you. That's why we are going to be hosting this fundraiser. So for those of you in Central Texas, when you get that invitation, show up with your checkbooks, your Cash App, your Zelle, so on and so forth. And again, it's JolandaJones.com. And we will have this on our YouTube description as well. You can just click on the link immediately and go there. Of course, we ask you to like, to share, to subscribe, and share for us to support her. Are there any final words that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, we better vote like our lives and our I'm a new grandmother. Like our lives and
congratulations.
Thank you. And our grandchildren's lives depend on it, because it does. And we can go back. They're trying to take us by stealing the 2 Black congressional seats. They literally are taking away our voting rights, right? By assaulting, by this war on our bodies, where we no longer have abortion, and we no longer have the abortion pill now in Texas once the governor signs it. That is an assault on women's rights, right? They're going after the working class. They're going after unions. I'm a firm believer in unions, right? Because unions provide a living wage. They're going after our health care. Groceries are way more expensive because Trump has lost his ever-loving mind. And when the farmers can't farm, they pass off their cost to us. That's why eggs that used to be $6 are now $13. So I'm just saying, you better vote, because voting matters. And there's a reason why racist white people, or actually racist anybody, votes, like, because they know that if they get people in office who think like them, then they will oppress Black people. And I'm not just pulling the race card. And almost everything, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's access to health care, whatever it is, Black people, for the most part, are always at the bottom. We have a higher rate of maternal mortality. More of us die in childbirth than any other race. We have the highest percentage of infant mortality. My niece died of SIDS. When we go to hospitals, because they have these preconceived notions, my sister is a physician, about Black people, that we can take pain more. When we go and we want pain medication, they'll be like, you don't need it. You're tough, you can take it. Or they think that we're drug addicts. A white person will go, they'll give it to them. I mean, with everything, whether it's getting loans at banks, they give white folks loans that they don't give to Black folks. They give them benefit of the doubts that they don't give to us. So don't tell me that I'm pulling a race card, because the empirical data, the receipts are there. We get treated worse than people. And we are the ones who are always at the front line of the civil rights movement. And other people get their rights because of us.
Yes.
And so,
so everybody else has gotten their rights on the backs of the civil rights movement, largely fought for by us. I do want to highlight this really quickly.
And we've had allies. Let me be clear. We've had allies. But we got Martin Luther King. We have Malcolm X. We got Medgar Evers. We have Jesse Jackson. Go name another race where we have Barbara Jordan. I go on and on. We have Mickey Leland. I could go on and on and on. And depending on where you're from, you have those people that were the ones that were training themselves to the counters at Walgreens.
Fannie Lou Hamer, Septima Clark, Rosa Parks. Yes.
So my point is, when you talk civil rights, you ain't talking about other people. Now we had allies. Let me be clear. We did have allies, but the people who were leading it, the people who were organizing it, were Black people, because we were the ones getting murdered, right? Yes. And there's a certain kind of motivation when you're trying to just live.
Yes. I will say this, as you talked about the attack on Black people as a whole, there is a very specific attack that Trump has, a war he's waging against Black women. So if we look at Gwen Wilcox from the National Labor Relations Board, who was the board chair, unceremoniously removed. Carla Hayden, Librarian of Congress, unceremoniously removed for no good reason, no cause at all. She was the first African-American and the first woman to serve as Librarian of Congress. And he just abruptly fired her via email. And that was just political. Lisa Cook now, Federal Reserve Board Governor.
Except she's knowing him. She was like, nah, you're not about to do me like that.
Phyllis Fong, who was an Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture since 2002. And in 2025, she was just dismissed by Trump. just purging inspector generals. So we need to pay attention to what's going on, and we need to understand that we have the power.
He
Yes.
literally removed Vice President Kamala Harris's security detail today.
I had not heard that. We have
That's
about
all over
15,
everywhere.
we have about 15 seconds left. What else would you like to say?
I would just like to say thank you for having me. I had fun. I heard so many things about you from Mikhail. I almost felt like I knew you in advance. Please come to the fundraiser. I look forward to meeting you. And another interesting trivia about me, I've been on 2 TV shows. I was on Survivor, and I was on a TV show called Sisters-in-Law on WeTV about 6 Black women lawyers in Houston.
My goodness. Okay, I hadn't seen Sisters-in-Law, but I had seen The Survivor, and yes, she is an unapologetic fighter for us. Thank you so much, Representative Jolanda Jones. Looking forward to seeing you in our community, and thank you for being on Rethinking Freedom.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.